There is a specific area of language in the classroom, but language can be heard and seen in every aspect of their work in the entire classroom. We will read books to them, either individually or as a group. We will talk about vocabulary. We will talk about what did you like about the book? Is this your favorite author? We will have them be interested in looking at books by themselves. The freedom of movement that the children enjoy in the classroom allows them to have a conversation with a friend, to come and have a conversation with us and tell us about their weekend, use their vocabulary, talk about things that are important to them. These are all parts of a beginning of language. Let me show you some examples of some pre-reading types of materials that your child may use in the classroom. This is an example of sorting by category. The child will take a look at pictures and sort them by tools, by wild animals, by food. There might be many, many categories. This is an example of a person and what they will use depending upon their occupation. The fireman with the fire engine, the farmer with the barn. Children may do this by themselves, but we will also do it with them and add information about each category or each match. It is important when you learn, before you learn to read, to follow a left to right progression, top to bottom. So this is an example of simple matching. This is the guinea pig, the hamster, the chipmunk. We have had one match. This would be the second match. The guinea pig, no. The hamster, no. The squirrel. So they would go no, no, yes, no, yes. So they would get used to moving their eyes from left to right. This is an example of creating patterns. When you read letters, you will notice patterns. You will be able to match letters. So this is a red apple, a green apple, a red apple, a green apple. Can you complete the pattern and then can you draw it and color it? The patterns will get more difficult. This is an example of red, red, green, red, red, green. What would come next? Children need to learn how to sequence events. This is an example of a girl planting seeds and watching the flower grow. She digs the hole, she drops the seeds in, the plant begins to grow, and she sees the flower. Initially, very young children will try to sequence this by picture only, and then they'll try to tell you something. It might be, she digs, seed, growing, plant, flower. Later on, you will have whole sentences and begin to tell the story. You might be able to spell, you might be able to write your letters, but you have to be able to form the story. So this is an example of what you might do for pre-reading. To learn how to read, we need to associate letter with sound. We use sandpaper letters and we show them The child is using his tactile, his sight, and his hearing to learn. We are using the cursive alphabet. We have found that children write in cursive very easily. There is a flow to it, and it makes sense to them. So they learn the cursive alphabet, and we only use the sound of the letter. Later on, when the children are 5 or 6 and they're coming and asking me, how do you spell something? I may say, you spell it W-H-E-N, and they understand that. But in the beginning, you will only hear the sound. And the reason is when we start to put the letters together, you might have at, at, mat. Otherwise, you're doing M-A-T, ta. Very confusing. So we learn an individual letter and its accompanying sound, and then we begin to hear initial sounds in a word. Initial sounds are used with objects. This is a mixer, a moose, and a moon. Each letter has its own drawer, and we learn to hear the initial sound. We use both letters because they will use print when they look at text and cursive when they write. Later on, we will take 2 drawers and 2 letters. Maybe they know and and we will mix them together and sort them. Rabbit. Do you put it by or do you put it by And they will hear that. We move on to the ending sound, and ending sounds are somewhat harder. This begins pig, snail, and so we begin to hear that, and we pull this. This is the movable alphabet. There is a box or drawer system with all the letters. They are alphabetized, and each child will learn how to access each letter. Once they understand at least 10 of the letters, we can begin to do what we call word building. The picture would be hat. What does it start with? We've already done that. I'm going to show you the blue. We're going to start to introduce the blue vowels, a, and we already know that it ends with t. So it's at. Later on, we may also match the label to it. Pink rhyming cards are each divided into each vowel, and it is another way to hear rhymes, to hear the ending sounds. So they will take all of the words and match them to either, for example, nut or sun or bug. So we would do this if we were doing it with them, is this cut nut, cut sun, or cut bug, and they're going to hear that. The ability to match letters is a reading skill. So the child will take 3-part cards, look at the picture. This is the control with the picture and the word. They will match the picture and they will match the label. Later on, you can remove the controls and they can practice looking at the picture, and the picture sound will cue them to the label. So they know this is a mug, so they're going to look for mug. Your child will practice using the movable alphabet with very simple words: consonant, vowel, consonant. Pig, hen, sun. They will start to focus in on being able to identify the various vowels that are used in each of these words. When they are comfortable with that, they will move on to things such as blends and long vowels. This is an example. They will hear, these are the S blends, some examples of them. For example, SP, ST, SN, SW. We will place pictures and sort them according to what we hear. They will then practice being able to use those and spell them. Long vowels, we begin with the silent E at the beginning. This is pin, this is pine. The child will practice learning how to spell them as well as to read them, and then we will keep moving on. This is an example of an advanced sequence story. In the beginning when I explained how the child was looking at the pictures of how to plant a seed, the child is only verbally talking about it. In an advanced version, they need to take each particular sentence, put them in order so they tell a coherent story, and after that, they need to write a sentence as to what would happen next. The challenge becomes when they need to write a sentence for what would happen before this story. Because this is an individualized program, your child may move on to compound words, to grammar, to verbs, to nouns, whatever they are ready for. There is a material for it that they can move on to do that. Once your child is able to compose words, and they will do this phonetically. Phonetically means that they will only use the letters of the sounds that they hear in a word. They will begin to write. They will label their work. They will begin to write sentences, and gradually they will actually be able to write stories and full, complete sentences. This is an example of how it may look. This particular one says bird. The child drew pictures of birds, different types of birds, and labeled their work bird. As you can see, we would not come in and tell them that there is an I missing. This child has heard D. The next example, we would begin to show them some of the words that we call sight words, which just have to be learned. The word the, things like the, is, are. We just tell them how it is. So the child would do the, we showed them a finger space, dog, bark. So all they got for bark was b-k, and they did not use a finger space here. Finger spacing to understand the concept of a word takes a while. So this child's sentence says, the dog barks. This is an example of a longer, more complex sentence. The child wrote, a whale is a mammal. When we look at children's work, we do not have to go and correct it. They can read it to us. What this shows me, however, is that this child still needs work with a silent E. So we will go back in a day or two and work on that. So the child can still feel really good about what they wrote, but they will eventually learn the particular skill. This is an example of their letter boxes. This is the movable alphabet. It is the absolute greatest thing Maria Montessori ever created. With it, a child can just concentrate on what sounds do I hear in a word? What do I want to say? They get the letters, they put it down, and visually they can look at it and be able to see how they did without worrying about, wait a minute, bird, okay, but how does a bee, how do I make a bee? How do I make an It's very complex, and this makes it very, very simple. So we have children doing this at a very young age. So how do we actually learn how to form the letters? Because at some point they will want to write their own work. This particular material is called metal insets. There are various plain shapes. The child takes one to a rug, to a table, takes it out. There is a paper underneath. We trace it. They take their pencil. They're holding on to their pencil. They're developing pencil control. And then we are going to do start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. Where the fingers are learning to hold the pencil and to control the direction that they go to. A fun thing is when older children do one, sometimes I say, so, can you make 50 lines in it? So if you continue to make lines, you can totally color it in. Second thing then that we begin to do with specific letters is in order to learn the letter, we have been tracing them with our finger, and then we can practice in the sand. Shake it. Try again. And practice in the sand. Children who are beginning to write their letters and are not totally confident often want us to write their work for them, and they will trace it with a marker. And then gradually, as they become able to write each letter, they will do it themselves. During the kindergarten year, most children within a few months can write quite a bit of the cursive alphabet all by themselves.